Brian Kohberger in a Moscow, Idaho courtroom only a 5-minute drive away from the crime scene.
The maximum penalty for this offense, if you were to plead guilty or be found guilty, is death or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
Charged with 4 counts of murder, the accused killer with zero visible emotion on his face. Just before his initial court appearance began, the unsealing of the probable cause affidavit with disturbing and potentially damning information.
There was other people home at that time.
We've known 2 other roommates were in the house on the morning of the murders, but it was a mystery if either of them heard or saw anything. Now we know. A roommate with the initials DM told investigators she was in her room and heard crying. The affidavit prepared by a Moscow, Idaho police corporal has this disturbing detail. She opened the door for the 3rd time after she heard the crying, and a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male. DM did not state that she recognized the male. The affidavit says that earlier when DM heard crying from one of the victims' rooms, she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." It's not clear if the intruder ever saw DM. DM's description helped provide valuable information when police found a Hyundai Elantra in an apartment building 15 minutes across the state line in Pullman, Washington.
Yeah, there was a mass shooting and everything.
And learned the owner matched that description. And the affidavit has this chilling set of details. The police officer saying as he entered one of the bedrooms, "I could see 2 females in the single bed in the room. Both Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogen were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Madison Mogen's right side. The sheath was later processed and had K-Bar, which is a company that makes military and tactical knives, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and Anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath. And according to the affidavit, last week, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from the Kohberger family residence located in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. DNA from Kohberger's father was retrieved. Police say the father's DNA proved that what they found in the murder house is the son's DNA. Police have determined the murders were carried out between 4 and 4:25 a.m. A review of footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1 starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. Upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit this area during time frame. While details on the affidavit are specific, it's still not clear if police know of a motivation for the killings or if the accused murderer knew any of the victims. But based on the affidavit, it appears the accused murderer targeted this house. Between June and the date of the murder in November, the police officer says Kohberger's cell phone signal was received 12 times near the house of the victims over a period of 5 months before the stabbings. All of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours of their respective days.
We are adjourned.
These details only add to the pain of the victims' family members, some of whom were in court for this hearing.
It's obviously an emotional time for the family, seeing the defendant for the first time. This is the beginning of the criminal justice system, and the family will be here for the long haul.
And Gary Tuchman joins us now live from Idaho. I mean, Gary, the details in that affidavit are really stunning. I mean, it seems like he, I don't know if stalking is the right word, but was certainly casing that property for a long time, late at night in the early morning hours over the course of several months. Did anything else stand out to you in the affidavit?
Yeah, there is a detail, Anderson, that stands out to me, and that's this. According to the affidavit, police say Kohberger's cell phone signal was again detected 5 hours after the stabbings in the same neighborhood where the house is.
Wow.
Basically, the inference is that the alleged killer went back to the house after the sun came up. Wow. Anderson?
That's something. Gary Tuchman, appreciate it. I'm joined now by Mary Ellen O'Toole, retired FBI special agent and legendary profiler. Also, John Miller, CNN chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst. John, some of your reporting, we want to start with that. We mentioned in the intro to Gary's report about what the suspect was allegedly doing at his family's home in Pennsylvania. It involves garbage bags. What have you learned on that?
So just to give that some context, Anderson, You've got the Pennsylvania State Police and FBI surveillance team in a rural area where it's very hard to do surveillance because, you know, strange cars would stand out. So they're watching the house from a distance. And what I'm told by the law enforcement source is that Kohberger comes out a number of times. He cleans the car extensively, almost as if, you know, you were going to clean it to sell it as a new car, inside, outside, every inch of it. And during much of these trips in and outside of the house, the source says he's wearing surgical gloves. This is what they're observing in the surveillance. The other thing is there's a period where he comes out at 4 o'clock in the morning with 2 bags of garbage, walks by their own garbage, and puts it in the neighbor's bins. So when they did the trash cover to recover his garbage, they took that as well. And of course, that is the search that led to the recovery of DNA, which then matched to the sheath and the knife, according to the affidavit.
And it's that familial DNA that they found the father's DNA so they could tell it was the son, which, as you and I have talked about, can be controversial.
It can be, and you know, there's only 12 states that allow that as that kind of evidence, but that was to reach probable cause. The first thing they did when that SWAT team went through the door and took him into custody was they had another search warrant which allowed them to take hair and swabs and collect his DNA from his person, which is now in the process of being matched in that lab. So they're going to get from a highly probable statistical answer to one that's going to be fairly certain.
Also, John, we've been waiting for more than 7 weeks for the details that we learned today. What do you make of the evidence, the timeline of the investigation?
So that's really interesting, Anderson, because people have been talking about why did this take so long when actually if you look at the timeline, you can actually see a process. Let's walk through it for a second. November 13th is when you have the murders, and that is the starting point for police. 10 days later, they get the DNA confirmation. November 25th, they've now looked at the video and they know they're looking for a white Hyundai. Kohberg's car is located at Washington State University, and he becomes a part of the focus because of the car. Once they have the cell phone profile on him that shows he's been in the neighborhood, and that's December 7th, he becomes of high interest. By December 23rd, they see that Kohberg's cell phone has been hitting near the crime scene, and December 28th, they get that DNA match. December 29th, they make the arrest. So what you see is while police weren't telling us a lot, and they were asking for the public's help, and they were going out to the media every couple of days with an update, there was a lot going on behind the scenes between the Moscow police, a small department that doesn't have a lot of experience in homicide, the Idaho State Police homicide team, and the FBI, which brought kind of unique resources in terms of cell phone tracking, video analysis, profilers, and so on. A lot of work went into this.
Mary Ellen, based on what we learned in the affidavit, what stands out to you?
Well, several things stand out because they come together like a puzzle. And the first thing is that we've all been commenting on the fact that here's a PhD studying in criminology, and he left behind a very significant piece of evidence from which they were able to extract DNA. Then you have the information from the cameras, and then you have the information from the cell towers that pinged on his phone. These were mistakes that are not consistent with somebody that is smarter than everybody else and knows more than anybody else. So, you know, I think it puts into perspective for me that just because you're studying for a PhD in criminology does not allow you to commit the perfect crime. Their forensic and the behavioral evidence was there, and they discovered it.
The returning, what seems to be, I don't know if it was returning to the scene or staying in the area, the cell phone ping that Gary Tuchman talked about several hours after the murders were committed. What do you make of that?
Well, looking at that in connection with some of the other things that have surfaced on this case, originally you could look at it and say, well, it's naivete, it's lack of experience, and it could be some of that, but I also think it's a sense of arrogance. And I also think it could be a sense of I'm smarter than the police are, and they're never going to be able to tie me to the case. And that will remain to be seen based on his behavior in the courtroom. But I do think that arrogance is really bleeding through in a variety of the photographs that we've seen and in the videos that we've seen on him. So again, it depends. It really is going to come down to his behavior in the courtroom.
Mary Ellen O'Toole, Don Miller, I appreciate it. Thank you.